those in need. Today, we honor Maureen Klinsky with a 2011 Christmas Angel Award. Maureen is a mother, an author, philanthropist, and former investment banker who's been active in a broad range of charitable causes, particularly those for children. She was raised in Rockland County. She earned her BA at Cornell University and her master's in nonfiction writing at Columbia. She was a managing director of Bear Stearns Investment Bank until 2001. Today, she works as a writer of literature for both adults and children. Her novel for older children is called Walls Within Walls. It was published by HarperCollins last year, and Maureen was named one of the best new voices by the American Booksellers Association. Well, along with her writing, she dedicates the majority of her time to her 4 children and to charitable work since 1993. Along with her husband, Stephen, she has been a founder of after-school centers in 6 of the most disadvantaged public schools in New York City, and a leading supporter of charter schools, including New York's original charter school, the Cicely Walker in Harlem, where she and her husband volunteer their time regularly to respond to high mortality rates of children and young mothers in the Central African Republic. She and her husband established health clinics there. She has supported Catholic schools and education through student-sponsored partners, the Inner City Scholarship Fund, and sponsors teachers through Teach for America. Outside her career, charitable and family work, Maureen is an active athlete. She can be found navigating the streets of New York via bicycle. I'm sure the mayor likes that. She and her husband are the proud parents of 4 beautiful children. They are here today out of school, good reason to be out of school. And most recently, she and her husband celebrated their 16th wedding anniversary this past April. I got a chance to meet Maureen and her husband Steve and the kids, and they are a lovely family. They so deserve this award. Please welcome, ladies and gentlemen, Maureen Klinsky.
Costume that my mother had lovingly prepared, and despite her best efforts, it rained. Rain socked the cardboard, one wing tore off, my halo was made of Christmas tinsel, I had a stomachache, so I was a one-winged, wet, over-sugared angel, so things are looking much better for me. To say I feel greatly humbled to be standing here amongst His Eminence, bishops, monsignors, nuns, priests, including my own family priest from growing up, Father Jerry Travers. All people who have dedicated their entire lives to the greater good of others does not merely say it all. I want to say thank you for what you do to make the world we all live in a slightly easier place. I was so fortunate because I grew up in a town. It wasn't rich with money, but it was a wealthy place in so many other ways. It was a town where every mother seemed to have 20/20 vision focused on the behavior of any kid in her sight. And these ladies, including my mother Kathleen and my Aunt Alice, they saw to it that no child got away with anything, and they would get involved if you found yourself in trouble. In fact, there is a whole table of those ladies here today to make sure I keep this speech clean and short. So how can someone thank people like that for the influence that they have made in her life? It's harder now to recreate that sort of life when society problems can seem so overwhelming, but even here in New York City, I am fortunate to have a different sort of village. Friends whom I call on for favors regarding the work my husband and I do. They make me wonder why they ever would want to return a call from me. There are people who do not flinch when I ask them to help get something done for people they will usually never meet. They do it with an efficiency and goodness of spirit that astounds me. There are people whom, after receiving one email, managed to pull together an entire library for a Harlem school. They did it in a week, using gently loved books their own children had grown past, using corporate communications from their work contacts. When I got a call about children coming to school last February with no coats, these ladies gathered a coat collection that would do any runway justice. There are women here who can make 300 cornbread muffins for an overnight shelter. and they ask me, would you like that with raisins or without? There are people I've worked with who can outfit a classroom with used computers to set up a school journalism club in Bed-Stuy, a place where the news is often bad. Once I stood knee-deep in gifts for a toy drive, thinking I could get away with not wrapping them. I was kept honest by a woman who's here today who said, Maureen, what kind of kid wants a Christmas present that isn't wrapped? So, shamed by this, the two of us stayed up till nearly dawn, wrapping 497 gifts, and the Scotch tape started to lift the skin off the tips of our fingers. And I thank these people for keeping me honest. Much like my old neighborhood, they just do it because it's the right thing to do, and because, like Mother Teresa said, we cannot all do great things, but we can do small things with great love. You and my supportive husband and wonderful children are my angels, and I'm so glad to have a chance to thank you. And I feel the same way about the role Catholic Charities plays in our city. Regardless of religious affiliation or any other way, we as a society dissect ourselves. Catholic Charities just does the right thing as quickly as possible for the most desperately poor, providing a safety net for women and children in need. And my own exposure to these issues began years ago when I was dating my husband in one of our earliest dates. Now remember, these are two Wall Street yuppies in the 1990s, so dates usually meant something other than which I will describe to you. He takes me to see an after-school program that he had started in one of the city's worst-performing public elementary schools. This is out in East New York, Brooklyn. In 1993, East New York was one of the most poor, most crime-ridden neighborhoods in all of America. But when we walked in past solid steel security doors, you saw classrooms full of wonderful kids and teachers. Today, that program, it's now 18 years old. It serves almost 1,000 children a day in 6 schools. It adds 3 hours of academic help every day, plus the entire summer. And as the years went on, I began to know some of these children in Brooklyn, and some, like a boy named Deshawn, have never left my thoughts. Deshawn was a boy who loved the stars. He was a 3rd grader, and he would blow my mind with his knowledge of black holes and exploding universes. And every time I saw him, he wore the same, very dirty clothes, and he had visible holes in his 9-year-old teeth. He seemed to have no friends, but thought nothing of coming to me, sitting on my lap, for some reason playing with my fingers, while he would shyly tell me some fact about asteroids or comets. So I told him I had gone to a college where there had been a famous astronomer named Carl Sagan, and after that, Deshawn kept asking me to please call him Carl. I remember something my own father told me, something that never fully registered until a moment with Deshawn. He said, you have to look directly into the eyes of the very poor if you want to see the face of God. With Deshawn, it was the first time I thought I understood this. It was hard for me to look right at him, and I think it was because he made me feel a little bit helpless. Here was a boy, he lived in a shelter, he had so much potential. But when he spoke of constellations and Big Dippers, he was not a scared, abused, poorly cared for child. He was someone else. And I felt frustrated to not be able to foster that. I thought of my own mother. She was a Harlem school teacher. She once brought home a little girl she had discovered with terrible bruises. She just took her home for the weekend, saying she thought the girl's mom needed a rest. While taking off with other people's children is not the solution, caring for them in some roll-up-your-sleeves way may be, and Catholic Charity represents that can-do spirit to me. Later, my husband and I helped start these charter schools, including the Sulu Walker School that was in 1999. And as the years have gone by, I began to take my own kids to help at that particular school in the after-school program. And soon, my dear friend, Nancy Hebert, and her 2 children came too. And then a funny thing happened. Our own children's friends, they also wanted to help. So it was followed by the Marinos and the Lasries, the Fagans, and the Joneses. And we were never sure who was going to jump into my car on a given afternoon, but somehow our ragtag numbers grew and grew. And I noticed that with a little direction, these kids formed their own tutoring circle, and that the more privileged kids seemed to treasure these friendships, with those less fortunate, and vice versa. Nothing felt forced or fake. This fall, I'm proud to say the entire 9th grade civics class of Nightingale Bamford School, my daughter's Upper East Side school, is actually held in the charter school. The girls study social issues alongside the students there, then they tutor in the younger grades. These prep school girls now know that on this very night there are 17,000 children in this city who will sleep in a shelter, and that 80% of those people in shelters are women and children. They know that the Harlem child that they will probably tutor tomorrow morning may be one of that 17,000, and they also know that that child has a face and a soul and a human story, and I believe that that feels different. These girls have learned to not be afraid to look into the face of the poor, and from what I see, they are empowered with empathy, with kindness, and their place in the world as role models. I see many of these children from the shelters adore their tutors, and they get some idea that maybe mastering schoolwork and doing the morally right thing can lead to life success. I like to believe both groups are forever stronger and forever better prepared to overcome social problems. And I also do not believe either side, rich or poor, sees each other as a 1% or 99%. They each see each other as a part of 100% that need each other to be whole. By supporting groups that foster unity and support one another, we are doing something that helps all of us, and that is what Catholic Charities is all about. That's why I'm so incredibly honored to be part of this celebration today. Catholic Charities has never turned away from the poor or the homeless. They look into the face of the needy. They extend a hand and a heart and a loving soul. They will never turn away so long as generous and loving people like yourselves give them the financial means to continue their good work. There's a hum in a busy classroom that seems to fire up every cell in my body, and sometimes after being in that for a while, I can come outside and admit to feeling a little bit exhausted, a little burnt out. Once after coming outdoors from a particularly lively session, my 7-year-old turned to me and said, "Mom, helping someone, it makes me feel like Christmas inside." And she's right. It feels like Christmas to me today, right here in this room. So thank you for coming and for this honor, and thank you, Catholic Charities, for bringing Christmas to so many women and children all year round.
Wow.
Congratulations, Maureen. Well, I think you will agree with me, our mornings have not been the same. And Joy Philbin can attest to that. Are you pulling your hair out yet, Joy? Okay. The spirit of the St. Nicholas Award is given annually to individuals who have brought the light and hope of the Christmas season into the lives of those who too often go without them, not just during the holiday, but all year. The 2011 Spirit of St. Nicholas Award is presented to Joy and Regis Philbin. Perhaps you know him. He's very anxious. You told me you wanted a nice long introduction. Okay. Well, he's a television icon, as you know. He holds the Guinness World Record for the most hours on television. Joy, his beautiful and talented wife, is a frequent guest host. Okay. I told you, things are going to get a little crazy here. All right, Regis, as you know, is one. Regis, did you win an Emmy Award? 2. Okay, he won 2 Emmy Awards. He's best known for his many years on the long-running, nationally syndicated morning program Live with Regis and Kelly, and the host of ABC's ratings hit, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? His many credits also include NBC's America's Got Talent, the CBS game show revival $1 Million Password, and a nightclub act that he has performed in venues all over the country. Joy has graced the television screen for many years, primarily as guest host on Live with Regis. She has been also hosting many lifestyle shows, including home and garden television specials and Bravo's Health and Family show. She's become a regular part of Regis's nightclub act, and recently, Regis and Joy recorded their first full-length CD together called Just You, Just Me. The Philbins live in Manhattan. They have 2 grown daughters, Joanna and Jennifer. They have 2 grandchildren. Regis, I don't know if you heard, he has a new book out. It's called How I Got This Way. And you can't just say it that way, you have to scream it. How I Got This Way! I don't care how you got this way. I'm just glad that you're here. Regis and Joy Philbin.
everybody. We are so happy to be here. Actually, just on a note from Rosanna's little intro, Regis promised he would come home for lunch. Now I've got him home for breakfast and lunch. But it's going to be interesting to see how he moves on. I just want you to know how happy we are to be here and what an honor it is to receive this award today. I'll give you the floor.
It is quite an honor, and we weren't expecting it, and we're delighted to be here. I have been to this room, I don't know, 900 times over the years, and I've never seen so many Catholics in my life. Incidentally, I thought Rosanna came pretty close when she called you freaking wife. I think she got mixed up with an old Protestant friend of mine, freaking Finelli. We talked about it on the show many, many times. Thank you, Rosanna, very, very much. Just a little shout out because this guy has really been a spectacular addition to New York City. He fits in so beautifully. He's unafraid to say what's on his mind. And he's just a terrific personality. Our Archbishop right here.
Nice to have the Archbishop as my lunch partner. I guess that's one of the perks of being your wife.
That's right. So I'm at Yankee Stadium a couple of years ago, opening day. We're sitting in George Steinbrenner's box, and it's very lovely. And the beer merchant comes down the aisle, you know. And anybody for a beer? A beer. So people are ordering beer. Give me a mug, give me a beer. And the guy behind me says, "I'll take a brew." I said, "I gotta see this." Nobody in New York calls a beer a brew, especially when he's ordering one. He's got to be from Milwaukee. And I was right, it was him! He brought a brew! A brew, I said. So anyway, I just want to say one thing. You know, of course, that in my goodbye remarks, I stressed that I was moving on. Moving on, not retiring, moving on. So now I'm on a book tour with this book. And you know, like 500 people will come and I'll talk a little bit to them and then I'll sign the book and 495 of them will say, "What's it like at retirement?" Can't speak. But no kidding, you know, this St. Nicholas Award means a great deal to me, and I was thinking about it the other day. I was born here in Manhattan over on the west side, but when I was about 2 years old, my family moved to the Bronx, and so I was raised in the Bronx, and then I went away to Notre Dame, and then the service, and then wound up in California for the most part, for practically all of the 28 years we were there. And but my mother used to tell me about 59th Street, where she was raised. And so when I came back to work here at ABC at 67th and Columbus, I stepped outside one day just to get my bearings, because it was all kind of new to me. And I looked down the street, and there was a church with a steeple on it. And so I asked them, "What church is that?" And they said, "It's St. Paul's." And it all came back to me. Of course, my mother used to love St. Paul's Church and loved all those Paulist fathers. And they were just great. And so she would tell me that her father, who arrived here in this country 110 years ago from Italy, raised 3 daughters and a son in this tenement on 59th Street. Every day he would walk down 59th Street to the Hudson River, a little pier down there, and look for a job as a stevedore. Didn't speak any English. He was only 5 feet tall, but he worked every day down there, lugging all of those things that had to be pushed out of the ship and onto the land. And he was just a great guy. But I heard so much about him. You see, I didn't know him. He died when I was 2 years old. But I'm thinking now, St. Nicholas. It just so happens that my grandfather's name was Nicholas. So it kind of means a little more to me than usual. So anyway, Joy, here we are. Joy is suffering through this. You see, I've been on tour with this book. She's so afraid that I'm going to be there in the morning when she wakes up.
Actually, I've never seen so little of Regis since he moved on.
I've never been so happy. But anyway, it's a wonderful day at the Catholic Charities. I got the biggest crowd I've ever seen here, I'll tell you that. And congratulations to you. And thank you for all the work you do. You know, sometimes we forget there are so many people out there in need, so many families. And if you saw some of the stats rolled by today, it's pretty incredible what is happening out there. But you're all going to mean a lot to them. And I thank you so much for coming and wish you all a very Merry Christmas.
Joy, I want to apologize for that slip of the tongue. I would never say it in front of the Archbishop. This could be my swan song emceeing this luncheon. And I just want to say, I did work for Regis as a production assistant many years ago. He was just as nice to his staff as he was to his celebrity guests on the show. It says something about me. Anyway, now my great pleasure to invite His Excellency Archbishop Timothy and Dolan to say a few.
Well, move over, Rockettes and Radio City Music Hall. Move over, Christmas tree at Rockefeller Center. Mary Higgins Clark is right. As usual, we New Yorkers know that the real Christmas event is this annual luncheon. And how honored I am to welcome all of you and to thank you. Thank you so much for your gracious presence. Thank you, Anna Murdoch-Mann and Mary Higgins Clark and Joe Spinato for your leadership at this magnificent luncheon. Thank you, Rosanna and Keith. Thank you, our Coleman Catholic Choir. Thanks especially to our distinguished and exuberant honorees, Maureen and Joy and Regis. Thanks to all of you for the energy, the Christmas spice that makes this event so savory. We also know, don't we, that the real centerpiece of this Christmas luncheon happens to be a baby. A baby in the arms of His Blessed Mother, a baby so many of us acclaim as our Lord and Savior, a baby with the name Jesus. So the real value of this annual luncheon is that our amazing Catholic charities of this Archdiocese of New York can continue to assist babies, moms, and kids, and parents, and families for whom there may be no place at the end, like there was not for Jesus. So now we come to the heart of our program. We pause, we quiet down, and we listen again to the most famous story of them all. You bet we've heard it 100 times before at least. We could probably all lip sync it, but it never fails to move us with its simplicity and its message. It never fails to bring a bit of a tear to the eye and a lump to the throat. And our own beloved kids from St. John Chrysostom School are going to help us relive it, if I'm not mistaken. Are they here now? Senior Sullivan? All right, you bet. With the traffic, the three whites are having trouble.
Thank you, Archbishop Dolan. And on behalf of Catholic Charities, we would like to now start this program where we will be singing the children of St. John Chrysostom. They will help us remember a very special mother, Mary, and her child, Jesus. Archbishop Dolan will proclaim the Christmas narrative from St. Luke's Gospel. And then Keith Miller and the John A. Coleman Choir will lead us in our continuing prayer for peace. May I ask His Excellency Archbishop Dolan to come back?
This is a reading from the Holy Gospel according to St. Luke. In those days, a decree went out from Caesar Augustus that the whole world should be enrolled. This was the first enrollment when Quirinius was governor of Syria. So all went to be enrolled, each to his own town. And Joseph too went up from Galilee, from the town of Nazareth, to Judea, to the city of David that is called Bethlehem, because he was of the house and family of David, to be enrolled with Mary, his betrothed, who was with child. While they were there, the time came for her to have her child, and she gave birth to her firstborn son. She wrapped him in swaddling clothes and laid him in a manger, because there was no room for them at the inn. Now there were shepherds in that region, living in the fields and keeping the night watch over their flock. The angel of the Lord appeared to them, and the glory of the Lord shone around them, and they were struck with great fear. But the angel said to them, "Do not be afraid, for behold, I proclaim to you good news of great joy that will be for all the people. For today, in the city of David, a Savior has been born for you, who is Messiah and Lord. And this will be a sign for you. You will find an infant wrapped in swaddling clothes